To me it was delightful. Honest to goodness village. There were brick walks that the Village Improvement Society built. Then they had oil lamps on the streets. Nearly everybody in town had half to 1 acre of ground. There was just a delightful atmosphere. I still can't get over it. I still say, I'm going to the village. Everyone in Falls Church used to have a front porch. I would love to just sit on my front porch watching the world go by, or just being still.
Well, Frida, I've walked by the house many times. It's in my neighborhood, and I'm glad to finally be sitting here and enjoying this nice day. It's a lot cooler than it's been.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you typically use the porch? Are you out here on many evenings, or?
Well, not in the very hot weather like it's been. It's day like today is great. I'd like to come out here when it's not so noisy. Like right now, it's rush hour, so we'll hear cars, and this is a four-way stop, and there's a lot of traffic at this time of day. During the middle of the day, there's not. Late at night, it's quiet, and it's very nice. And there's a breeze you can get coming around the corner here. And when it's not, 95, 100 degrees at Falls Church, it's a very pleasant place to sit.
Yeah. Even with the traffic, though, I mean, between the plantings that you have and the fact that this bungalow has solid railings and affords kind of a sense of privacy and protectedness that maybe if this were all railing here, I don't think you'd feel that. And I think even though we're fairly close to the street and there is a good amount of noise, I feel pretty like we're having a nice private conversation as opposed to being in everybody else's.
It's very private and it's relatively cool. If there is any cool air to be found, you'll find it here. There's shade. It's I guess this stucco actually is a cool. It makes it feel cool here, and it's nice. It's open. Although the roof, I guess this roof is relatively low. We're in a big open space here, just outside of that. So it is comfortable. It's private. You're right.
Yeah. How do you use the porch?
Well, it's kind of evolved. We've never lived in a house that had a porch like this. So as time goes on, we've gone beyond just sitting out here when it's pleasant to sit out here. This, of course, is a popular place when my daughter was in kindergarten, and the bus stop was right out in front here. So this would be a good staging spot for the parents, and it's a good spot when the kids don't let you watch them at the school stop anymore. So you could hide in the porch here, and of course when it's raining,
Shelter.
This is a great spot. What we started to do after we lived here a year is on Halloween, we started very modestly decorating the porch. I would spend half the day cleaning up cobwebs and then the other half day putting up artificial cobwebs, and then I figured I don't really need to do that. Each year we add more. And one of the nice parts of this, even though it's very noisy here because we're at an intersection, a lot of people pass by this house. So one of the nice things is on Halloween, when each year we make it more and more festive and have more and more things out. Last year we expanded out in the yard, and we had things out there, and we always have things hanging from the trees and so on. More and more people come by, and people will actually make special trips over here at Halloween to come see what we did at the porch.
We've noticed, especially this year, there's sound effects, there's all sorts of stuff. It's very elaborate.
Yes, we're going really crazy on that. Yeah.
But you probably meet a lot of people as a result of just having this porch so close to the sidewalk, and it's on our path. As we go to the bike path, or as we go to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, and so we come by here. So I'm sure you've met neighbors that you wouldn't otherwise have met if you didn't have this porch to sit back on. And again, though, I think it still feels pretty private. I think you still feel good and safe here, and which is bungalows have that in general. The porch is generally a nice intermediate space between the street. Actually, the stairs are important in bungalows as well, but it allows you to walk right into a living room from the porch without feeling. A lot of types of architecture have have to demand a foyer just for a space so you don't walk immediately into somebody's living area. Whereas bungalows, by having this porch, have this intermediate space, this transitional space that allows you to walk right into there and not feel as if you've done something uncomfortable.
Right. No, this is a very sheltered space, and it's nice. I can't picture this house without this porch. It's not
sure
like a deck where you could have the deck or not have the deck. This is an essential part of the look and feel of the house, having this porch. And you're right. Every time I do come out, or we do anything in the yard right around here, we always meet new people. The Memorial Day fun run comes by here, and that's always a fun place to if we're not running or walking, of people hanging out here. The AIDS bike ride comes by here.
Yeah, I mean,
the staging for the parade in the afternoon is here. And what's been nice is whenever we've done something different, and we do things to the landscape over time. We had hedges that kind of blocked off the yard for a time, and we took them down so that the yard and the house is more visible to people walking on the street. And we got a lot of feedback from people. Strangers would come up and say,
when I first met you, if you recall, I was glad to see that. It was because it's a beautiful house, and as well, connected to a very nice porch, and it was very nice to see it from the street as we walk around.
And somehow this house, or I don't know what it is about the age of the house or the style or whatever, but it seems like people are very, very ready to come and talk to you about it or stop by when they're coming by.
It's a comfortable house style, and it people you're drawn to. People want to come up here and sit down and see what you're up to and just be here. It feels good sitting here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to maybe head over there? All right, well, let's head over to there's another end of this porch. There's a swing. It's very typical. And we're free to over here on the swing, which is just as nice as we thought it might be. How much of the year do you get to sit out here and swing and enjoy the day?
Well, this is our favorite spot.
Yeah.
I mean, when my daughter comes home from school, she'll sometimes just stay out here and swing. We've done homework out here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll sit and have a drink out here. This is sort of the preferred location.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually talking the other day about what direction it should face in. Because right now we're looking to, I guess, where we were just sitting on the other side of the porch. And we're thinking, well, how would you position this maybe so you could, or do you want to position it so you could actually sit in the swing and
look straight out
and look around? But this is nice.
I think you see lots of your porch, and it's a nice porch.
Right, and it's conversational for whoever's sitting in the rocking chairs, whatever other chairs we drag out here. So,
how many seasons do you end up using it?
In this climate, lots.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst time of year really for using it is what we just had, an intensely hot July. Just tend not to come outside to sit. But spring, fall's my favorite.
Yeah.
Fall is super, and some winters.
You just pick your spots. It could be a great place to sit in the winter.
Yeah. I guess we're facing north here. I believe we are.
Yeah, because I mean, there's the sun setting over there, and it's you get a little bit of glare, but you have enough trees around here in the summertime that's not a bother at all. I was thinking about coming over here that might be something we'd run into, but it feels nice. Well, now that we've barged in on you and we are neighbors, I'm gonna
Have to come
on by again, and
come
next time
sit
I come
on the
by,
porch.
we'll hop up on the steps, and if I'm invited, I'll come all the way up onto the porch and have a swing.
And you're right. It's a beautiful night. I'll probably just sit out here the rest of the night.
All right.
Nearly every street in Falls Church was arched over with trees. You walked under a bower. That's what made Falls Church so attractive.
Barbara and I are standing on the corner of East Fairfax Street and Douglas Avenue by the Falls Church Episcopal's new wing. And we're here looking at the eastern white oak. You can see in back of us the very tallest tree. In back of us, it's a very large tree, and it's our tricentennial tree for Falls Church. And it is the tree of the year in 1999. We're right at the trunk of the white oak, and what does this say, Barbara?
It says Quercus alba, white oak, noteworthy tree selected by Village Preservation and Improvement Society.
Okay, well, this is the old oak tree that I don't know if we're going to tie a yellow ribbon around it, but why don't we do this anymore?
Well, puncturing the tree is like puncturing your skin. It allows for infection and compromises the health of the tree. It's just not safe.
But now that the nails are in, we're not going to take them out. Right, okay. Well, this is a very old tree. There's been a lot of pock marks on it from a variety of issues that's happened. You can see the lightning rod wire going up right here. Barbara, we have a tombstone. I don't know. Can you read? Do you have better eyes than I do? What is it?
October 27th, 1803. It's John Carolyn.
Okay, that's good. Well, so this tree is older than this tombstone, and that meant that they had to cut the roots to put this tombstone in, so that might explain why the canopy doesn't go out very far. Well, Barbara, you know, the front of the Falls Church Episcopal was facing East Fairfax Street, not where it's facing South Washington, and that was the front, and legend has it, who knows, a lot of legends in Falls Church, that George Washington actually tied his horse to this tree. Now, we have no way of knowing that, of course, but it's a wonderful legend. Now, something we do know about, though, is in the Civil War. Is that right?
That's right, Dave. The Union soldiers who were stationed here, it was used as a hospital. I think that we have some Matthew Brady photos of the Falls Church. To have some recreation, I suppose, they used this area for target practice, this tombstone, which is next to the tree. We can only assume that the tree also got hit with the target practice. You can see the bullet marks here and some real deep penetration here, which this must have been the center ground zero. And some repair work obviously has been done here too.
So the tree took some hits. So this tree has been heavily abused. Now, fortunately, the church is really taking good care of it now, and evidence that it's still alive after all the cuts that the roots had to take, and the putting the tombstones in, and so it's really a credit to the church now that they're really taking care of this. So if we plant a white oak, maybe in 300 years. We'll have a good tree here, too. What do you see about this wire, and what do you see, Barbara?
Well, there's a scar tissue area here, which is probably a foot across and looks like it goes about 15 feet up the side of the tree right underneath this cable. You can see where the smooth area is, and there's another crack in the center of that, which looks like it's healed over. The cadmium layer is...
What do you think that scar is from?
Lightning.
Yes, that's why we have the lightning wire there. Okay. Well, the leaves on here are very interesting. How would you describe the leaves?
Well, I did pick up a few. They're very pretty green, nice medium green color, and they're rounded at the tip. They stay on the tree all after fall. The brown leaves, they turn color brown, and they stay on through the winter.
That's great. Now,
a lot of leaf cleanup.
we'll call it an everbrown tree, right? And what do you know about the acorns? This has a special acorn, I understand.
Yes, the white oak acorn is a very tasty acorn, and people in earlier times used to boil the acorns and make sort of a meal out of it. They could mash it, use it in breads, that sort of
And they could just eat it straight after they boil it. And
Yes.
I think you were telling me earlier that that was like how people now, it was a staple. We don't even know about it anymore. Nobody eats the acorns of white oaks, and I understand you're saying they're very different than the red oaks. The red oaks are more bitter,
Yes,
and these are more sweet.
Yes.
So if you want to have some, prepare for an emergency, you grow a white oak, and you can get
Exactly.
thousands of acorns to last you through the winter, can't you?
Exactly.
You just have to be able to boil the water.
Exactly.
Well, great. Well, let's go on over and see what a young white oak looks like.
Okay.
Well, Barbara, here we are. We walked from the Falls Church Episcopal to the other famous area, Cherry Hill.
That's right.
We're at Cherry Hill Farm, and this is my favorite part of town. I call it the Arboretum. What do you call it?
Well, it's so interesting. I love Cherry Hill. I call it a lot of things. It's cool here. The breeze is wonderful
Right.
today. It's supposed to hit 100, so we're happy to have a breeze.
It's and happy to have the trees. And let's go over and see the baby white oak. We saw a 300-plus-year-old white oak. Here's a tree that was just planted, about 4 or 5 years ago. And white oaks don't grow very fast, do they?
No, they're very slow growing.
And I look at the bark. What do you see?
Well, it has very nice linear sort of patchwork that appears in its light as you get to the surface, and then the crevices are darker, so it really makes it stand out. And now we can see the leaves, I think, a lot better on the white oak on this specimen here.
They look the same as they do on the old tree,
Yes,
don't they?
sir.
Yeah, great. Well, this tree was planted to commemorate the chairman of the Historic Commission, Rick Turman, and I think that's a great process to, get trees and people together.
Yes, I agree.
You've been planting a lot of trees, I
Yes,
know.
I
and,
have.
so this is nice to have a young oak tree, so 300 years, they'll remember who Rick Turman was, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you. Now we've seen a young one and an old one, and my favorite part of town.
Uncle George used to take me down to Mankin's Notions and Dry Goods, a corner store at Broad in Washington, where the office building is now. She always had candy, which was something we couldn't have at home. It was a great treat for me to go to Mrs. Mankin's store and have those marvelous penny candies. Uncle George used to carry me down to the store and get them for me. Mother didn't approve, but he did it just the same. I enjoyed it.
I've been here since '64. I think the shop opened up in '59. It's been nice here. The people been treating me real well. They haven't ran me out of town yet. I've been old type barbers. I listen to what they tell me, and I try to cut the hair the way they want it. But other barbers have a certain way of training. They say they look at the face, if the face round, you cut your hair a certain way. And if it's certain, like say, if you got an all-round face, you cut your hair a certain way. But I'm the old type. If somebody tell me cut it right straight down the middle, I try to do it. So it just depends on the barber. But I like the old days mostly because it was like maybe one day you might get all the retired teachers you'll see here early in the morning, and then the next day the ministers would come and they would be here. And they, like I said, it was a meeting place. And they would have little sermonettes in here, and everything we want to know would come to the barber shop. And it's been a pretty good spot here. Even my sister, she worked at the Penny Darn, and she would set up the different admirals and generals, and I was glad to meet Admiral Gravy since I was in the Navy, and he was the first black admiral, and she sent him up here to get a haircut, and it was real nice. Oh yeah, yeah, back in the 80s, that was the year when Doug Williams was the quarterback of the Redskins. Looked like the whole team would come here, whether they wanted haircuts or not. Didn't matter. But we have a Cowboy fan in the chair here. They would give him a rough time. He always would say he didn't want to take pictures with the Redskins and whatnot, but a couple of the guys, Grant and whatnot, they'd pull him on in there and make him take pictures anyway.
Future?
Yeah, well, I'm in the process now. We have some young fellas looking into it. They said it's gonna keep it going on. I won't call any names right now, but each day I hear how they're gonna remodel and change and set up the business. So it should be here by 2000 anyway. That right, fellas? Oh, I ain't hear no answer. kind of quiet now.
I loved going to the village. Everybody knew everybody. I would say, "Hello, Mrs. Brown," or "Hello, Mr. Hawkshurst," and they would all know me and my kin.
Lou Olam has been one of the most familiar faces in Falls Church for the past 40 years. And one of his favorite places in Falls Church is the Mary Riley Stiles Public Library. Let's go on in and meet Lou Olam.
Okay.
Lou,
Yeah.
we're at the Mary Riley Stiles Library, and you were telling me this is one of your favorite places to go in Falls Church. Why is that?
Well, there's a long history to my relationship with the library, and really it's a good thing that we're starting here because I first got interested in Falls Church, believe it or not, because of the library. It wasn't this library. It was a library that existed on the corner of West Street and Broad Street. It's where the gas station is now. It's the Sunoco gas station. And I'll tell you the story because it's an interesting one, I think. I used to drive to work every morning, and one morning, as we were driving to work, I suddenly looked and there was no building. It had all been demolished overnight, but from my point of view, what was more disastrous was to see that the two huge dogwood trees in front of the building were knocked down too, and that offended me, perhaps even more so than knocking down the building. One was a white dogwood, the other was a red dogwood or a pink dogwood. And I was so incensed about it that because I had just gotten involved with trees, this was about 1953 or 4, that I sat down and wrote my first letter to the editor. And I sent it to the Washington Post, and I hoped that it would reflect my views about what people are doing about trees. And they printed it, believe it or not. In those days, they printed letters from Falls Church on such things.
Let's talk about some of the places you used to go in Falls Church where you'd hang out.
Well, some of my hangouts are no longer around. Yeah. For example, on a weekend, you got to remember that a lot of the things that we're trying to think about in the past would be better remembered by my wife because I was a working fellow. Mm-hmm. And so I was here only really on weekends and sometimes only just Saturday afternoons and Sundays. So most of the work that was done in getting around, taking children around, was done by my wife. But on Sundays, I would leap into the fray. And I remember taking both of our children to see the blacksmiths. You remember the little old blacksmith fellow that was there. And as you may know, as you do know, I spent a lot of my life working with the city's civic organizations. And so some of the places that I visited frequently were the city council chambers, where I participated in and listened to the works of the city council and the planning commission. But in the early days, there was no city hall to speak of. The city hall was in what's now the Women's Club. And so we'd all march into that little place, and sometimes we were hanging out by the windows, especially on hot days, to hear what was going on. And some of the meetings became a little tense, so tempers flared and they opened the windows to see if we could get more air into the place. As for places besides the schools and the city and all the rest, we of course went to the grocery stores. And in my day I thought we had 3, but you reminded me we have 4. We had the Acme, we had the Safeway, we had the Grand Union, which I had forgotten about, and we had the Consumers Cooperative, which was a great store. We patronized that a lot. We had first one bank, First Virginia Bank, with that wonderful little building, you know.
The stone building?
Yeah.
Was it called Falls Church Bank then?
I think so, you know, Falls Church Bank. There was a drugstore on Washington Street, South Washington Street, called something in Wallace. I can't remember the first name. Maybe it was only Wallace. There was a People's drugstore on Broad Street, and I now don't remember whether it was on the north side or the south side of Broad Street. And those were the two that were close by. There was a giant music store. I don't know when it was around. Maybe it came later. It was called a giant music
That's right.
store.
So you would go in giant
We'd
music
go
store?
in there, yeah.
What would you do in there?
Well, I'd go look at the records. My kids would go in there. And of course, as this modern music emerged, and I became more and more of an old fogey about music, I stayed out of there, but my children patronized it to the greatest extent of our budget.
I think that was the meeting place of kids in town.
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, it's too bad they went out of business because they were a center point. There was a thing in the back of my house, which is now called Roberts Park, and we visited that a lot, particularly on weekends. And then later on, under Harry Wells' administration, the lot was acquired, and it's now Roberts Park, and our kids used to play there all the time. And lots of kids from all over the city came there to play football, basketball, baseball, and our children would fall into the brook or the stream and come back all wet, and they had a great time. But you can't do that anymore because it's culverted over. We spent a lot of time visiting Cherry Hill House and the grounds, and some of us were instrumental in persuading the city to acquire the Cherry Hill House itself. Similarly, on the bike trail, the council, as it does many times, was wavering back and forth. So we in the Village Society sent a young lady up there with a check for $250 or $300, which at that time was a not inconsiderable amount of money. And we kind of embarrassed and shamed the council into acquiring the trail. And that, of course, led to a lot of activity. We planted up the trail, and we put a little shack on there. And then after we got through doing all that, it got sold back to Fairfax County, I think, and now it's part of a much larger combine. And there was Heckinger's on South Washington Street. I was not, and am not today, a do-it-yourself guy. So I seldom patronized Heckinger, but my wife was. And so she spent a good bit of our budget in the Heckinger's shop until they closed it off. We also visited the bowling alleys to try to stay in good shape because a person who works on a seat most of the time needs some extra activities, and we did that. We bowled. We tried to bowl. And I can't think of the word, what do you do when you go to a movie? Do you recreate?
Sure.
For recreation, we went to the State Theater, and we saw movies there.
Where'd you sit?
Well, upstairs.
Oh, upstairs.
Yeah. Sometimes there was a lot of noise. Yeah. Sometimes there wasn't, but we went upstairs and sometimes our kids didn't want to sit with us, you know.
As they got older.
As they got older, and so we changed positions. Either we'd be downstairs or they would be downstairs. But that was a nice little theater, and I'm happy to see it being restored now, and I hope that after the 2 years pass, that we will once again be able to see movies. And my preference is for the very good movies, like the one down in Shirlington. There's a great theater in Shirlington which shows first-rate movies. If we can do something like that, I think we'll be doing well. We obviously patronized to a very large extent the West End Shopping Center. That was close to our home. And whatever was there, we went to. I even looked in the windows when the Peacock Buick shop was there to see if I could get a small Buick that I could afford, but it never worked out. Then there was the Cadiddle Hoppers. Did we mention Cadiddle Hoppers?
No.
There's a little place called Cadiddle Hoppers, which I think now got itself ensconced in the drugstore here, where
Falls Church.
yeah, the Falls Church
City Cafe.
Yeah, you can eat there now, and that's old Cadiddle Hoppers, probably new people, but we visited Cadiddle Hoppers. there was a small shop for women, for women's apparel, that my wife went to. She said it's the best little shop around, but they got kind of squeezed out of business and had to finally close the place up. What else? Let me see. Have I mentioned Robertson's department store? If you go downtown, we would visit, especially my wife, Robertson's department store. It sort of looked like a five and dime store, and it may have been, I've forgotten.
It was, yeah.
Then there was Claude Wells, who had a men's shop, and a men's apparel, I think it was called.
Right.
And we visited that to make sure we gave Claude some business. Then there was, I mentioned the small bank. You got to remember all this activity around on Broad Street on both sides occurred and was successful because there was parking on Broad Street with meters.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we grew bigger, quote unquote, and more sophisticated, we got rid of the parking, which I think was the worst decision that's been made on that area, in that area for a long time. We spent a lot of time visiting Elizabeth Graham's wonderful house and gardens, and she named them Tranquility. And she knew we all had to retire from time to time to have a little bit of tranquility because things got kind of hot and heavy in the city over various issues, mostly zoning and planning. And so after the meetings, we retired to Elizabeth's Tranquility and have whatever it took to restore our health.
Which we won't talk about.
We won't talk about that. We used to go to the Bonnell house. We went to the Kay's house. We went to the Straits house. We went to the Wallenberg's house. We went to Malcolm Smith's house. The reason I mention these houses is that, not unlike some of the things that are taking place today, we would hold civic meetings at these houses. And we would encourage people to give their houses for this purpose, to lend their houses for this purpose. And they did. And it was a great feeling. There was a feeling of joy about what people were doing and a feeling of purpose and mission and what we wanted to accomplish for the city. And I may say in retrospect that a lot of the things that we wanted to do came through.
Now,
See,
how about to recreate? Do you recreate? Do you go
I don't
places?
recreate
You don't
anymore.
recreate anymore. You don't go bowling anymore.
No, I don't go bowling anymore. I do walk.
You walk. Where do you walk?
We walk every morning. My neighbor, Mr. Picarillo, Harry Picarillo, and I walk starting about 8 o'clock, and we come back about 8:40. We walk all around Spring Street. We start at Spring and Poplar, and we walk up sometimes to Broad Street, and then west on Broad to West Street, and then back West Street all the way back to Poplar. But we haven't been doing that lately. We turn left, we turn west, where the Boy Scouts house is. There's some nice trees there, and there are birds, and there's some recreational facilities for kids. That turns into Berman Park that you mentioned. Well, we go through the wood, and then we get to West Street, and then turn left on West Street to Poplar Drive, and we go back home. That whole thing takes about 35 or 40 minutes, depending on how many people we meet on the road. You know, you meet people, you stop and chat.
You have regulars you see?
Regular what?
Regular people you see every day?
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 we see. Don't ask me their names, I don't know them. They're just old friends that I don't think we've ever met, but they have dogs. It's a great little city for dogs, and everybody's out there taking his dog for a walk. So it's a pleasant thing. It gives me 35 or 40 minutes worth of walking, and that's about all the recreation I do. I mean, I can't run, I can't trot, but walking I can do, so I walk. In earlier days, you asked me about what I do for recreation. When I was first retired in 1981, this is becoming an I thing, I went walking, and I went much further than I do now, and I would go all the way down Broad Street and come back around the trail, the bike trail. And that was always very pleasant. And I think I did about 3 to 4 miles every day while I could still do that. But I can't do that now, but I do go up there just to see how things look. Go to the farmer's market on Saturday as often as I can. When the weather gets too bad, I just can't do it.
What do you like about the farmer's market?
Oh, I like the whole thing. I like, I'm very much attached to this gal, Gracie,
Oh, yeah.
who bakes her own bread, as you know. And I was very much attached to this little shop that run by a gal named Martha something.
Oh, yeah, they
who
moved
was
to
in
Alabama.
Yeah, she was excellent. I mean, it's rather interesting seeing a gal who has a PhD in anthropology
Right.
marketing her organic foods, and that's just the kind of town this is. You get people with varying occupations and professions focusing on this project or that project, and I guess that's why we stayed in Falls Church. There were so many interesting people and decent people, and it's been fun living here.
I heard music everywhere in town. A lot of folks had pianos and other instruments in their homes, and I could just walk up and down the street and hear people playing pianos and violins and singing. Some fellas were always sitting on the front steps of the stores down by the crossroads playing harmonica. Of course, there was music at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. A band always played at town picnics. One of my favorite things was dances at the Oddfellows Hall.
Music is still an exciting part of life in Falls Church. We're here at the State Theater, which just opened. And we're here with Jim Edmonds of Fox's Music, interviewing David Steinberg, co-owner of the State Theater.
David Steinberg, congratulations.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Finally made it. It's open. Here we are.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's been a long battle, but we are open, and we're happy to be here too.
Thank you very much. It's certainly a pleasure knowing you and being a part of the community, owning Fox's Music Company. We feel especially proud because we feel that live music in Falls Church is not only a necessity, but it's something which is going to help us immensely.
Well, we look forward to being part of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the performances we're having this summer and in the past. I know my favorite coming up soon is Delbert McClinton, blues guitarist. I guess many of our audience know him because he's kind of pushed hard by a couple of national radio programs. But anyway, tell us about some of the other performers.
Okay, well, we have Delbert McClinton performing here. It'll be August 14th.
Right.
The tickets to that show are $25, as he normally plays one of the other venues around town, but he usually plays there on a Monday or Tuesday night, and we're having him on a Saturday night. So it's a slightly more expensive show. The night before Delbert McClinton, we have another blues artist, Coco Taylor, the queen of the blues.
Right.
Coco and her blues machine, and that's the Friday night show. And then the night before that, we have Merle Haggard,
Yeah.
country legend.
Favorite.
Country legend. So that is an all-star week in August.
Well, David, we don't need to talk about the revival of the State Theater. I think at least most of the people in Falls Church know about its history. But one thing that we do want to talk about is getting the word out. I mean, you've now opened your doors. We want to spread the word. We want to get the community involved. And I know for my part, I intend to use some of your flyers as mailers. And what else can we do? Let's be frank.
Well, the main thing we need to do is get bodies in here. I mean, our experience, and partially because it's the summertime, but
Right.
we've been having well-known talent in here, and we've had very good shows and good performances. But the turnout on the audience has been 200 or less each time, and that doesn't quite pay the bills.
Well, I have a feeling that a lot of it's going to be changing with a regular venue provided by Cellar Doors. I know they're your do we call them managers, production managers, or
There are booking agents.
your booking agents? Okay, and one of the proudest and best in the country. So I think we can expect good artists. And it seems to me that once the word gets out and it clicks with a person once, then they'll know that this is a place to go. I'm sure excited about it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that once somebody comes in here, we'll have them as a customer for a long time. The reports we've been getting back from both customers and musicians is that this is a wonderful venue. Leroy Parnell's road manager said something to us the other night that this is going to be one of the nicest places to play on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of feedback that we just love hearing.
As a venue, let's talk about it a little. I mean, we see general admission seats in the balcony, dining tables, we have a bar area, we have a good menu. It's a wonderful facility. It has something for everybody. I know the menu's reasonable. I believe the entrees I believe the appetizers are about $4 or $5, entrees up to $8, $9, $10. I thought it was pretty good.
Well, thanks. We have a wonderful chef, and the food's been coming out consistently good. We've added pastas to the menu. Our menu's still in the expanding mode. As we start getting more and more people in here, the menu will fill out to its full projected contents. We still are yet to add the fresh seafood and the steaks to the menu, but slowly but surely. We've been getting great reports back from the bands that have played here. They love the room, the acoustics, the feel of it. There's, it's intimate. It's a small room, yet large enough to house a national act. We're very excited about what's going to happen here.
I am too. Let's talk about some of the other artists. Do you have any lines at this stage of who will be here in the fall or in the coming future?
Well, we have some names that we're tossing around. Nothing's confirmed for date-wise, but we have bands like Little Feat going to be coming here.
Wow.
The Marshall Tucker Band. We're still throwing around some other names and, just don't have any contracts signed, so I'm hesitant to talk about some of them. We hope to get people like Carlos Santana in here at some point and B.B. King, but there's nothing on the burner yet for those names.
That's exciting. I was thrilled when I believe one of the bands from my store, actually Steve, had to fill in an open last week. Do you know anything about that?
Which is that from the band Virginia Coalition?
I think it's Virginia Coalition.
Yeah, they came to us a couple of weeks ago, and we were a few days before we were going to have a show with Ronnie Montrose, who's one of the guitar legends of the 70s and 80s. And we were looking for an opening band. They came in. They were nice kids, and their CD sounded good, and we gave them a chance. And Ronnie Montrose enjoyed them so much that he invited the conga player and the guitarist to come up and play in an acoustic set with he and his conga player. And he just looked like he was having so much fun. He was going to...
Well, I can tell you, as a retailer and a citizen of the area, it's really exciting to have that sort of opportunity and to see what you're doing.
The type of music we want to bring into the State Theater is it's an eclectic mix of various formats of music: rock and roll, blues, jazz, classic rock, a little R&B, some jazz, some country music. We want to, at one time or another, bring something in that'll please everybody. We also are not limiting ourselves to national acts. We are looking forward to helping bring up some regional and local talent, using this State Theater as a showcase for up-and-coming talent.
Are there plans outside of the theater portion to use the facility? Can you tell me something about the rentals, maybe?
Well, the theater is available for rentals for private parties, functions, conferences, meetings. I could see that someone might want to have a wedding here, or a bar mitzvah, or a Christmas party. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Anybody that wants to come in and talk about that with us, we'd be happy to discuss it with them.
It occurred to me, one of the things that I've observed in the last 10 or 12 years since I've been involved in the city, and is the fact that the places that you can have for performances simply dried up. I'm not sure whether it's because of the legalities, insurance, but it's very difficult to bring together a recital or any kind of a group. So I think the community should welcome you there, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that people have come in. We've been approached by some local theater groups, and they like to come in, and then they want to do a run of a play for 2 weeks, and that sort of is a little difficult for us to give up the primary force of our business and you know, give up 2 weekends and, no, the weeknights, that's stuff we can work with, but
Right.
the Friday and Saturday nights, that's something we're not anxious to give up. But,
Right.
you know, we'll talk to anybody about anything.
Okay, David, we're at the State Theater. What's the address?
We're right here in the heart of the city of Falls Church at 220 North Washington Street.
Right. Yeah, it's exciting. I pass by going back and forth to work each day. And I must tell you, it was really a thrill when the red, white, and blue marquee finally went up. And it's nice to see the way you've got it laid out. We can see 3 days in advance, three performances in advance. And I know for a fact that there's been little problems as far as parking is concerned. It's a wonderful location, and I'm really excited about this coming year.
Yeah, well, me too. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks, David.
Sometimes I would walk to and from the village along the roads, but I loved to walk the trails and alleys behind houses, through fields and woods. It just seemed more special.
Many of the old trails, fields, streams, and meadows are gone from the past in Falls Church, but we still have a lot of remnants. And one of my favorite trails begins right at Tripp's Run on South Maple. Cavalier Trail Park on South Maple Street, where it ends up on South Washington Street, has 4 different trails coming out of it in which you can walk home on. Here's one of my favorites. Love walking by in July the purple coneflowers, also known as echinacea. It's a real popular plant right now. People are using for its curative values, or supposed curative value. You can see it in all the drugstores and health food stores and right now, but we have them right here in Falls Church, right along our trail as we walk home. Look how the bees love it. They're having a good time. And these bees don't bother us. All they want to do is get that pollen out of there. All kinds of different kinds of bees there. They're having a good time. Right here we have the native bee balm right next to the native butterfly weed. Both are flowers that butterflies and other friendly insects love to inhabit, and butterflies, bees, wonderful plant. Beautiful. Smells good and looks good. These are wonderful examples of sea oats just about coming to bloom that we planted in 1992. And it's a joy just to watch them starting to come into bloom. Come back in a few days and they'll be in full majesty. The oats are like a catkin here, and these will gradually open up and be white. Very beautiful, very airy, light, beautiful flower. Attracts a lot of the local insects that are really healthy for our environment. In June and July, I love walking by the oak leaf hydrangea. It's a little bit of past prime right now. There's a couple of the flowers left on here. Just love watching those gradually come out and then disappearing. Everything in the park comes and goes throughout the year, which makes it so exciting to walk through here to watch the changes. Nothing is ever the same. This is the pussy willow, which has its beautiful furry catkins from February to March and April. Everybody loves to have in their yard, or everybody likes to have in their house in a vase. And yet not too many people are growing pussy willows. It's a beautiful bush-like tree, but especially in February through May. So when I'm walking through here in February through May, this is the high point of my visit then. It's feeling and looking at the catkins of the pussy willow. I love walking by the spice bush every day on this trail, and the great smell, the lemony smell that it puts off. That's why they call it the spice bush. And birds love this too. It's a great shrub. Great to watch it evolve throughout the whole year. Going over, seeing the button bush with all the butterflies and bees all hovering around it. It's one of the most beautiful smelling flowers you'll ever smell. This is a pawpaw tree, and you're looking at a pawpaw fruit. It's one of the few edible fruits of the native Virginia trees. It can be eaten as is when it's ripening in September, or it can be made into a bread or a pudding. It tastes a little bit like a combination between custard and a banana-like custard. The leaves look tropical. It's related to the guava. You generally see these in the parks of Falls Church as you're walking down the trails. We have the arrowwood viburnums over here that are some of the tallest you'll ever see, 12, 15 feet tall. The flowers are already past, but the berries are getting ready to ripen. And when those berries ripen, you're going to see birds all over this plant. So every time you walk home on this trail, you'll see lots of birds here loving these berries. It's very exciting just to watch them starting to ripen, and then the day you walk by and all the birds are hovering over this tree is very exciting. The orange flowers of this wonderful butterfly weed, a native Virginia plant, attracts butterflies, obviously, and bees. And it's just a wonderful addition to any garden, and it's definitely a wonderful addition to any trail for the excitement of walking by every day and seeing what's happening on the flowers. It's a Kentucky yellowwood. The wood is yellow, but has, in April and May, it's the most beautiful flowers you'll ever see. It's a white, sweet-smelling flower that hangs down. Makes it, looks like ornaments all over it, white ornaments, fluffy. And the butterflies and bees go crazy over those. It's really fun just to go through the park and watch the changes in these trees as you're going home on the trail. You're looking at a hop hornbeam, also known as ironwood or rough-barked ironwood. Wood is so hard that it sinks in water. Deeper along the trail, we come up to the ash tree. A wonderful example of how a wild tree left to grow develops its own personality. It's not like something that's been preordained. The shape is unique. And it provides its own form of beauty. You're looking at a sycamore tree. It's white, speckled bark. Wherever you see a sycamore tree growing, you know there's water nearby. And sure enough, we're right next to Tripp's Run. See what kind of birds we can see up there, and squirrels. There's always something happening up in the ash and the sycamore trees. Always a great relief after a day to come through here and see how it changes every day. Past some more ironwood and spice bush, and all these ferns down here are really beautiful to watch as they grow.
One of the most interesting things to me is that right in the middle of Falls Church, right in the middle of one of the fastest urbanizing areas anywhere, we have magnificent old houses and trees, beautiful music still in homes and on the streets, marvelous places to gather, and trails to return home on. It makes me wonder why these wonderful qualities of village life remain here in Falls Church.